The silence in the house was not peaceful. It was heavy, a thick, suffocating veil that settled over Elara every evening when Elias returned home. They had been married for 6 months, but the intimacy between them had withered before it could ever fully bloom. It began on their wedding night, when the reality of her past surfaced, a past she had hoped to bury under the sanctity of their vows. Elias had not shouted. He had not thrown things. He had simply gone cold. The shadow of the past. For Elara, that memory was a ghost that never stopped haunting her. It had happened 3 years ago, during a weekend trip she had taken with a man named Julian. At the time, she was young, naive, and blinded by a whirlwind romance that felt like destiny. Julian had been charismatic, persistent, and masterful at making her feel like the center of his universe. It hadn't been a moment of calculated rebellion, but rather a surrender to pressure and a desperate desire to be enough for someone she. When it was over, and the realization hit that the intimacy she had guarded was gone, given to a man who vanished 3 weeks later without a word, the shame had hollowed her out. She had spent years trying to rebuild her self-worth, convinced that her value was something that could be stolen. The marriage of glass, Elias had been everything she dreamed of. Kind, stable, and deeply traditional. When he married her, he spoke of purity as a foundation, a sacred treasure to be held for a husband. She had been terrified to tell him, and in her fear, she kept silent until the wedding night made silence impossible. The discovery hadn't been an explosion, but a slow erosion. In the weeks that followed, Elias withdrew. He became a man who slept on the edge of the bed, his back turned to her. When they spoke, his voice lacked the warmth it had possessed during their courtship. He didn't look at her with adoration. He looked at her with a lingering, puzzled grief. Elara felt the sorrow in the air every day. It was in the way he hesitated to hold her hand in public, and the way he checked his phone to avoid eye contact at the dinner table. She felt like an imposter in her own home, a flawed vessel trying to pour wine into a cup that was already shattered. The weight of regret. One rainy Tuesday, the silence broke. Elara stood by the window, watching the water streak against the glass, and finally spoke the words that had been rotting in her throat. "You aren't mourning the loss of my purity, Elias," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You're mourning the image you had of me. You're in love with a version of me that never existed. And you're punishing me for being a human who has lived." Elias looked up from his book, his expression tight. "It's not about the act, Elara. It's about the truth. It feels like the foundation of our life together is built on a secret that changed how I see you." "And that is my tragedy," she replied. "That I have to carry the weight of a mistake I made as a girl, while you get to judge me as a man who wants perfection. I gave that boy a part of me I can never get back. And now, I'm giving the rest of me to a husband who refuses to see me because he's too busy looking at what's missing." The room grew quiet again, but the air felt different. The sorrow was still there, a profound, aching sadness that they might have built their house on shifting sand. But for the first time, it was out in the open, raw and bleeding, waiting to see if it would heal or if it would finally be the end of them.